All right, let's watch some YouTube shorts and see what's going on. I've got a couple here already queued up. You know how YouTube, they give you what you want to see. This is Carrie Wedler, and this is a little bit old, but let's check it out.
Everyone's fixating on who's going to win in November, but the winner is already obvious. The government. That's right, the government is going to win no matter which flavor of authoritarians and their corporatist benefactors and partners in crime you elect to rule over you and the rest of us at every level of government. Their enforcement class will also win, retaining their power to steal from you and inflict violence for compliance with politicians' rules. This monopoly on violence is exactly why you get no accountability and keep getting criminals who couldn't care less about your freedom and well-being ruling over you, elected or not. And they're further emboldened by your belief in this coercive authority's legitimacy and your willingness to play the game. You have no real choice within government. You have an illusion of choice. But you do have agency outside the state. No politician or authority is coming to save you.
Thank God.
Only you can do that, as an individual or in voluntary groups. And as a matter of fact, if you need saving at all, it's from the government and politicians you keep voting to empower.
I couldn't agree more. I've talked about this before, and I posted a circus meme with Kamala and Trump dressed as clowns. And I talked about the fact that this is the first election that I haven't voted Republican and that I haven't voted for one of the two Democrat or Republicans. I never vote Democrat. I've just never been able to understand them in any way, shape, or form. But this is the first time I didn't vote for a Republican because I'm done. I can totally see the bullshit, just like Carrie's talking about here. No matter who gets in, Wall Street gets paid, money goes overseas, laws get made that restrict our freedom and civil liberties. They're always talking about taking away this law or that law or doing this or doing that. And it's a slow, steady encroachment. And so finally I just F you guys. and it felt good. It felt good. And I see people having meltdowns, especially libs. Maybe we'll watch some of their videos here in a moment. I see people having meltdowns and I feel for them. I didn't have a meltdown when Joe Biden lost, but my heart sank and I'm like, oh man, this guy, this clown show, 50-year career politician, probably one of the, if not there's a lot of them in the Senate too, but one of them back there that I just have zero respect for. The guy is a walking disaster. I wouldn't trust him to shovel the snow off my walks. And I see people revering him and I'm like, is your brain working? This guy is a clown show. I mean, one of the worst swamp creatures back there. He's just a clown. Let's take a look and see if we can find for some of those libs. Before we do that, I want to watch this video here. No, I think this is Norman Finkelstein. Let's see what he has to say.
Now, this is what we call a legendary response.
You were accused of being a, quote, self-hating Jew. What's your response to that quite common, yet very serious accusation?
Well, my response is a completely rational one. Let's say it's true, for argument's sake, that I'm a self-hating Jew. What does that have to do with the facts? I mean, if Einstein was a self-hating Jew, for argument's sake, that mean E does not equal MC squared? What do the facts have to do with what I am or what I'm not? If I were a self-loving Jew, would that mean everything I say is true? So...
Wow, that's good. I've never heard anyone say it like that, and that makes perfect sense. That so much is the argument. Well, we know what we know about the Hasbara media machine and Israeli propaganda tactics is they're always trying to divert, right? They're always spinning something, and that could be because they know they're in the wrong. Any rational person will know they're in the wrong if you look into it a little bit. I looked into it for a handful of hours. I knew basically nothing about the specific situation in Israel prior to October 7th. And after a little bit of research, I'm like, oh, those mofos are trouble. They're real troublemakers. And they're bad people, especially after watching Tantura and the occupation of the American mind and listening to a bunch of videos and interviews with Jewish people, rabbis saying, yeah, they basically are doing things in our name, and we're not down with it. I've posted a bunch on my social media at @GMarkPhillips, but that's an interesting argument, and I've watched long interviews with him as well. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. All right, let's go up here and see if we can find some liberal meltdown just for kicks. I don't want to. They're so hilarious. Liberals losing it over the 2024 election. I'm not a fan of Sky News anymore because I think they're Israeli backed or right-wing conservative backed. They were exposing a lot of truth in COVID times, and I liked that, and they seem to be cool. But the reason I don't like them is they're agitating the left-right narrative, and I don't see it that way anymore. I see that as a distraction. The people that are really doing bad deeds in our world, and I believe it's the same people dropping bombs on Gaza. The people that are really doing bad deeds in our world, they want us to fight left and right. They want us to be melting down. Meanwhile, they advance their agenda. But let's watch this video first. After we skip this ad here.
Welcome back to the program, and now it's time for a little segment we like to call
it's a Sky News
Only
too.
in America. Look, I know that after all the rancor and division of the last year, it is time for everyone to come together. And for Trump fans, there should be no gloating, but rather an extended hand of friendship to those on the other side of the political divide, which I'm sure will be accepted with good grace and humor by liberals who fought a good fight, but ultimately came up short. Liberals like these, very rational folks.
I can't believe Trump's actually going to win this thing.
Y'all, why are y'all Trump supporters? Why?
And then hysterically crying the next minute, watching so many people come together.
Let it out.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Okay, maybe not.
Wild. That is wild. Now again, I don't want to take pleasure in another person's pain again, because I've been there. I didn't do that. But I was bummed when Joe Biden won in 2020. But see, here's the challenge. Them showing you this is what I don't like about Sky News. I used to like them, but them showing this, that agitates the left-right divide. It agitates the division in our country. And the people who are paying Sky News to do this and making us fight amongst ourselves or think that, because these people surely think the people who voted for Trump are the evilest people in the world because they have to deal with this. I don't know whether these elections are really what they say they are, to be quite honest. I think it all could be bullshit at this point. Let's continue.
Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining me from the soon-to-be-drained swamp. See you next time.
So funny. Let's watch this one.
When you buy music gear from Sweetwater, you get more than just what's in the box. A whole lot more. Every piece.
And Graham Lloyd. Now, this is hilarious because last week the US, well, you'd think that they'd actually sent
again
a clear
another
signal
Sky
that
News.
they don't want Kamala Harris to be president, and yet some Dems are just not taking no for an answer.
One promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
It would absolve her from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats operate.
Yes, let's punt Joe Biden, put Kamala in for a couple of days. Never mind that the overwhelming majority of Americans actually said, no, we don't want you. But please, Graham, why are they just not taking no for an answer here? They're in such denial.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? What's needed is humility. And looking how chuffed Joe Biden looks following the result, I don't think he's going to be giving up for anybody. And seriously, it would devalue the event of the US getting the first female president if they were to sneak it in this fashion. The reality is they're all yesterday's people. The caravan has moved on. Nothing will happen between now and when Trump is inaugurated, and that's what.
But you see what they do, this back and forth. Oh, you know, your group won this time, our group won the next time. It just keeps Americans off their center, and the show goes on. Like, I caught a lot of flack when I posted that circus meme on my social at @GMarkPhillips, and it opened my eyes, because I thought for sure people are waking up to the bullshit, especially after the COVID situation and the complete and total circus and clown show that many people now are openly saying, yeah, we got played in one way or another. Some people are talking about the LOCKDOWNS. Other people are talking about the mandates or the distancing or the things you put on your face. I mean, we still have to be careful what we talk about, but people are waking up, and I don't know anyone who could go through that and not have serious questions about what happened. For me, it was the icing or the cherry on the top of the cake, the icing and the cherry, to be quite honest. I'll never give government another second of my time or attention or any access to my brain, at all. I'll watch stuff like this to critique it and react to it, but I'll never watch the news for any substance at all. I'll never listen to another politician. I didn't listen before, to be quite honest. I've gotten sucked in here or there. I listened to a few Trump speeches. Again, Trump's an interesting character, seemingly successful in the real world, although I'm starting to question, everything about that guy, to be honest. But after COVID times, I'm done with all of them. I'm never coming back, which is why I didn't vote for one of the two parties. And I may not vote at all again in the future. I'm done. They're clown shows. Nothing ever changes. The trajectory still stays the same, and people get all bent out of shape. Let's continue.
When it begins.
Yeah, Graham, I forgot about that, because Biden came out the other day beaming, the biggest smile we've ever seen. He had a big spring in his step, didn't he? He's gone from potato to spring in his step, and it's, he's not going to leave, is he?
No, I would be very surprised. I mean, what I'm amazed about is, I think that was the Chief of Staff, Kamala.
Yeah, it was.
And why hasn't he been sacked, for a start? I mean, you can see how delusional he is if he thinks that's good. But it's all about symbolism. They want to make her the first female president, even if it is just a total sham. And they have no idea. And they probably now will be in denial. They'll never, ever understand why she lost. No. They're just so tin-eared about it all. And arrogant. So, I can't see it happening, but I'm sure Trump will have a way of sticking it up them and making sure it doesn't work.
Well, if it's not about sexism, misogyny, racism to blame for the vote, we'll give her a chance. We'll still give her a chance. That's basically what they're doing here. It's just pathetic. Now, Graham, a really great article in The Australian from your colleague Chris Mitchell today. He writes that the American media became activists against Trump, and that left them unable to read the situation well. But this part in particular was great. It said the left liberal US media got Trump and the electorate wrong for 9 years, but last week showed little sign of understanding why. This column was reminded of the sullen faces of the ABC.
See, and the more I look at and think about what happened in this recent election in 2024, lots of things going through my mind. One, like I said, I'm not sure these elections are what they say they are, for one. I don't know how else to unpack that, especially given the climate right now. Two is this. many people turned out to vote in 2020, and I have a very hard time believing that the election went that way. Let's just put it that way. Shocked, in fact, because why did it go? What really is going to change in 4 years? Granted, I do believe that because of the complete traumatic experience that Americans, sensible Americans, I'll never understand liberals and Democrats. Their brains don't work like mine, so I can't understand where their thinking is, that they'd want Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, two of the most incompetent, can't string a sentence together, can't make a coherent thought. These people, I've never known them to do anything wonderful for our country. So that's beside the point. But when you have sensible people and they look into our world and they see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden repeatedly acting like a clown, speaking incoherently, the mess in Afghanistan, shutting down that pipeline that, to my understanding, was an economic benefit to the Keystone XL pipeline that Joe Biden did his executive order on. That, my understanding, it's an economic benefit to the United States. I don't know all about it, but shutting it down so quickly. The war in Ukraine, telling Americans that our patience is wearing thin. Like, the government of the United States has bigger problems to worry about than whether I get my booster or take their medicine. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got bigger problems. It's a non-issue. However, when they hammer and turn their media machine on it and they start brainwashing a bunch of Americans into believing this is the biggest problem, meanwhile they can't pay their rent, can't pay their homeowners, their home payment, racking up credit card debt, no savings for retirement, right? Kids are learning dumb things in school. Like, that's not a big problem in the grand scheme of things, but they can make you think it is. They can sure make you think it is, right? What happened during the COVID times was a travesty. It was a criminal, right? It was one of the biggest scams I've ever seen in my life. You know, just all of it was a mess. I believe there's still, and they'll never get to the bottom of it, how much fraud went down, how much money our government lost, and where the money went. We gave billions of dollars to the worst companies on the planet. Fraudulent, misleading, lying, cheating, falsifying data, manipulating data, all sorts of bad news. Those companies are super, super bad. And we just gave them the money and there's no talk about it. This is why I'm done with Gov. Dude, I was done before, to be quite honest, but I'm extra done now.
On election night in 2019, when Liberal leader Scott Morrison beat Labor's Bill Shorten. Graham, what is it about, particularly the lefty media? Why do they always misread the play?
Well, it's the echo chamber effect. So if you never speak to anybody who doesn't share your view, you are absolutely astonished when you're presented with the fact that most people actually don't agree with you. I think the first Trump presidency showed how disconnected the media was from what was really happening out in mainstream America. They didn't learn that lesson. They didn't reconnect with America. They just set about demonising Donald Trump. And I think they've been fed another dose of humble pie. Whether they will bring themselves to acknowledge it this time, only time will tell.
Well, they never self-reflect. They probably will never acknowledge it, Prue, because that's the way that the left-wing media operate. And the fact that they were taken so by surprise. I mean, I've seen the scare campaigns already running, even here in Australia. They're running these headlines of, "What, Trump dangerous for Australia?" Come on.
I mean, they are so superior. They think they are so much more informed than the rest of us. It's interesting how the media landscape has changed so much, because so many of these journalists have lost their objectivity and what we're supposed to do, which is report the facts and not buy into the conversation unless you're a commentator. And
in my experience, very few journalists especially at the high level, report the facts. In my experience, it's, again, a propaganda machine, a divisive machine, a manipulation machine, telling people what to think in subtle ways. I think they're masters of manipulation. That's why I don't watch their stuff. I find it completely pointless to even attempt to get news from these people.
I think it's the public's onto it. We're now really sourcing different channels and sources for our news, and that's really good.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what we should be, celebrating. But we've got to be, it's buyer beware, isn't it, at this stage?
It really is buyer beware. We've got to be careful. Prue McSween, Graham Lloyd, really good to have you both on. Thank you so much.
There you go. Watching some meltdowns. I mean, you could watch all sorts of the meltdowns. That's an Associated Press. You could watch them for days. They're very entertaining. But I appreciate you watching this video. Leave me a thumbs up if you like it. And I will talk to you in the next one. Have an awesome day. All the best, health, wealth, and success. Bye-bye.